I mean, I just say this because I'm going back through my mental filing cabinet here and the way the songs came out. You know, the 70s started showing up, and we had the psychedelic music. And here comes Tommy James with one of the big things that we listened to when I was in Vietnam.
Oh, really?
I can't remember the name of the album, but it was the one with Sweet Cherry Wine on it.
Oh, sure.
And
Cellophane Symphony.
Cellophane Symphony, right.
And we, by that time, this was 1969, and we had, basically gone through all of the changes with the garage bands and the bubble gum and the Formula records, and we began producing ourselves in '69, starting with Crimson and Clover. And so Crimson and Clover was a great milestone for us because it really allowed us to make that transition from sort of AM top 40 to FM album-oriented rock. I don't think there's any other record we ever did that would have allowed us to make that pivot right at that moment. And we sort of had both audiences from that point on.
Yeah.
And when we then we started, of course, after the Crystal Blue and the other songs from the Crimson and Clover album, we were able to go in and do Cellophane Symphony. That's where Sweet Cherry Wine came from. And by the way, you mentioned Vietnam. We got so much fan mail from Vietnam. I can't begin to tell you, just from the guys over there, and just the way the whole thing went down in the '60s. And it was those of us who are in the '60s, there's this romance that's been sort of rewritten about the '60s, but it was a very hard time.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah.
And congratulations to you, and God bless you for doing that.
You got us through it. You really, and that's the cool thing about getting to talk to you now is giving me the chance to thank you.
Oh man,
for the music, because Cellophane Symphony was, the Beatles. We'd listened to their entire albums, but most of the albums that came out were just mostly junk, and they had a couple of hit singles. Cellophane Symphony, everything on it was just awesome.
Well, thank you so much. That's
totally
great.
Awesome.
The funny thing about that album, when we first did it, it was, everybody up at Roulette wondered what we were smoking. What happened was, and this is really an amazing story. I'll do it briefly. After the Crimson and Clover album, during that period of time, Allegro, our studio, was constantly updating for new technology that was coming in the studio. So I had to start an album, and they were closed, updating. The board was torn apart. So we went to another studio called Broadway Sound, which is just about 3 blocks away, and it was owned by Whitey Ford from the New York Yankees, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
And they had the first Moog synthesizer in New York City.
Oh, wow.
And so we went in there, and Whitey, believe it or not, it's like, here he is, we think he's, closing in the 9th inning, and here he is thinking of synth riffs. How cool is that, right? So he shows, we have lunch together, and that was a strange lunch, by the way, me talking rock and roll, and Whitey talking baseball. It was really interesting. But anyway, he showed me the whole studio, and we ended up doing an album there. It was Cellophane Symphony, all around the Moog. And, of course, this is, the first major synthesizer in New York City, and it was, it looked like an old switchboard from the 1920s.
Sure.
And but we loved what it was doing, and that was obviously the way of the future. So we ended up doing the entire album around the Moog synthesizer, and we called it Cellophane Symphony. Yeah,
it was just a great piece of work.
Thank you.
I mean, just now I want to go. I had the reel-to-reel tape, and I still have it somewhere. So when I get home today, I'm going to listen to it again.
Oh, great!
Got to prepare for.
It's pretty antiquated by today's standards, but for 1969, I'll tell you, it was a big move forward for us, and kind of chancy because we weren't sure how the public was going to accept us doing that, but thankfully it worked.
Well, again, the thing about you is you start with Hanky Panky, you get to I Think We're Alone Now, and the songs around that era. And then you get to Cellophane Symphony. That's the third time you reinvented yourself.
Well, thank you. We were really lucky that the fans were locked into us like they were, because it would have been real easy to fall off a cliff doing that. A lot of groups did.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had an organization called the Wounded Warriors had a little concert, and a bunch of recording acts from really the late 50s, early 60s were part of it, including Troy Shondell.
Oh, my.
And he brought up your name.
Sure. sure. I guess you would. It's his last name.
Yes.
Well, he was. He lived not too far from me down in Indiana. I think I was from southern Michigan. He was from down in Indiana. He had a couple of hits in the early '60s.
Right.
Good man.
Yeah. This time we're really whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he wanted me. He said, if you ever talk to Tommy, tell him I said hello.
Okay. Well, great. That's great. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. You're at the San Diego County Fair on Thursday.
Yes.
And just looking forward to the show, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, that's going to be great. Please don't be a stranger. We're going to have fun, and it's, we don't get out there all that often, and we've got so many great fans out there, and they get real rowdy out there in San Diego.
Well, yeah.
They do.
Yeah, we do.
And so we're really looking forward to it.
Well, we're cooped up all the time because the weather's so bad.
Yeah.
I lied.
Right. Well, you know something? I dearly love it out there. I used to spend a lot of time in Palm Springs. I actually had a house out there, and I used to come over to San Diego fairly often, and I dearly love it. In fact, one of the times I played San Diego downtown is when they had the big earthquake. This is like in '92. They had the big Landers quake.
Yeah.
And I was playing at the Coliseum there, and they had that's how cool they are out there. They blew off the earthquake and had the concert anyway. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, earthquakes are pretty second nature for us.
Yeah, it just blew me away. Meanwhile, my knees are shaking, and I'm like, I'm scared to death. And then, come on. So they took it in stride, and we played anyway.
Like you, I grew up in New York, so I've been here almost 10 years.
Oh, really? You grew up in New York?
Yeah, upstate New York, Rochester.
Did you? Sure. We were just up there not too long ago.
Oh, cool. But coming out here and people go, you get earthquakes all the time, don't you? And I mean, we've gotten used to it.
Well, listen, I'm really looking forward to coming. It's great talking with you, Dave.
Likewise, Tommy. Thank you so much for your time and thanks for sharing.
Okay, my friend.
Good to hear from you, and we'll see you on Thursday.